We just learned that there have been many updates to travel in Europe for 2024. If you are going on a cruise in Europe anytime soon, you're going to want to listen to this. Hey everybody, what is up? Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jordan and this is JJ Cruise. We are your one-stop shop for all things cruising. To be honest, we did not plan on making this video this weekend. We didn't plan on talking about Europe or European requirements for cruisers, but we got some breaking news within the last 24 hours about very important updates for travel to Europe, including a massive update for that ETIAS Visa program for travelers coming into Europe for cruises. We promised you when we made that video a few months ago we would update you when we had more information. We now know more information about when that program is launching. We also have an update and information about taxes and port fees in Europe, a little bit of an interesting development in Venice, as well as, of course, more information about the Barcelona port change. If you are traveling to Europe anytime soon or you're going on a cruise in the next 12 months, you're going to want to watch this video until the end because there's very important information that you will need to know before you ever take your trip or step foot on a ship. Before I get into all of that, I do of course want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. We are still on our road to 50,000 subscribers. Please be a part of the first 50K JJ crew by hitting that red subscribe button. And while you're doing that, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up. Let's get into the information, and we're going to start by talking about taxes and port fees. Now, there is always ongoing conversation about the environmental impact that large ships have coming into some of these smaller European ports. Of course, we saw the Port of Venice, for example, no longer accept large cruise ships directly into Venice. The Port of Barcelona has just made a change, and they're no longer allowing large ships into the actual city center, but making people drive about 15 minutes to catch their ship down along the coast. Well, along with some of these changes, there's also been changes to taxes and port fees for these specific destinations. The Port of Barcelona recently announced that they would be charging a $4.25 euro charge for people coming in or sailing in on cruise ships. Places like Amsterdam, places in the UK, Paris, France, land destinations as well have discussed increasing port fees or taxes for travelers and tourists that are coming in from other countries. We did just see an increase in the Caribbean and North America at the Port of Nassau. They made a pretty hefty increase to their port fees, which is reflected on all of your cruise documents. Now, this is what I want to say about this. It's very important to always pay attention to what pricing you're paying and what port fees are costing, because in your cruise contract, those port fees can increase and change even after you've purchased your cruise or even after you've paid in full if the port decides that they're going to raise their port fees and their taxes. Now, the good news is typically this is something that the cruise line will at least take that increase into account when you're booking your cruise. But sometimes, like in the case of Nassau, those increase once you've already booked your cruise. It is then the cruise line's job or your travel agent's job to alert you that there's been an increase in port fees and that you have to pay that additional $20, maybe $30 in total. All I'm going to say is if you are traveling to Europe in the next 12 months, it's just something to pay attention to regarding your email inbox. Often cruise lines will notify you about this increase in port fees via email. So if there's ever a time to watch your email inbox and look for those important announcements or maybe a port fee notice increase, it is now. Next, let's talk about Venice. Venice proper is no longer really a cruise port for the majority of cruises that are coming in and out of that side of Italy. However, there are a couple of cruise ports, Ravenna being one of them, Trieste being the other on the other side of Venice, that cruise ships are coming into, and that's where passengers are loading on for their Mediterranean cruises. People will fly in though typically, and they will visit Venice a day or two, maybe 3 days before their cruise or after their cruise. Recently, Venice had announced that there was going to be a daily charge for people coming into the actual island. Now, this charge would range from €3 up to €10 depending on the popularity of the day and the time of year. This was decided in 2019, which was pre-pandemic. It has been delayed 3 times now. Well, they now have officially announced that they are planning on starting this in the middle half of 2024. The middle half of 2024 is, of course, going to be July and onward, which will be right in the middle of Mediterranean cruising month. It's important to know if you are going to Venice to factor in these extra charges so that you are going to be able to pay them when you go on and off the island. This, of course, is more good to know if you are visiting Venice anytime in 2024 to just expect to have to pay those on a daily basis. They have said if you're staying actually in Venice proper, those fees will be waived. As of today, October 22nd, the port of Barcelona has officially moved. If you are doing any cruising in or out of Barcelona starting this week, they are moving most major cruise ships down the coast about 15 minutes. This is not something that cruise lines are necessarily alerting people of. You do need to pay attention to your cruise documents to tell you what address to go to when cruising out of the Port of Barcelona. The Port of Barcelona is huge. Typically, they would bring cruise ships into the city center, so directly right into town, so you could sometimes even just catch a 5-minute cab to the cruise. Now they've moved most major cruise lines all the way down the coast. So again, pay attention to your cruise documents, what address you are going to go to when picking up your cruise in Barcelona. The last and very major thing that I want to talk about here is ETIAS. ETIAS is, of course, that visa program that was going to launch here in January, from what we thought, for anyone coming in and out of Europe. It was a program that you'd have to pay about €7 for. You'd have to get that visa prior to ever flying or cruising in. And it would be something that would be checked when you would be coming into any European country. I made a video all about ETIAS and how it works. You can go back and check that out. But this is the massive announcement that just came out about ETIAS. It's no longer going to be in effect for 2024. They just announced that it is getting pushed back another year. They don't expect this to start until 2025. This is really good news for a lot of you, because after we made that video, we had hundreds of people reaching out to us, asking us what the date was to please alert us. We had, of course, a lot of our clients very concerned about their travels in 2024, rightfully so. This is a very important information that you have to know. Now, if you are cruising or traveling, of course, to Europe in 2024, you're not going to need to worry about that ETIAS program. I want to make one other note about ETIAS, because we got a lot of comments from many of you at home telling us that you thought it was terrible that the European Union was implementing something like this in most of their countries overseas. I want to make a point to let you all know that this program is actually mirrored from a program that has been in the United States for years. The US does require people to fill out an ESTA, which is very similar to ETIAS, which is a visa and pay a small fee when coming into the US for a visit. This is very standard. The European Union, I'm actually shocked, has not had something like this for quite a while, and it's even more surprising that they keep pushing it back. I'm sure that there's logistics involved and a lot of meetings that have to happen with a lot of different countries, because it does encompass 60 different countries within Europe. Be patient and just know if you're traveling to Europe in 2024, this is not something that you're going to have to worry about. I think that covers all of the current updates for Europe. I hope that you found this information helpful. Let me know below when your next trip to Europe is, and if this video actually gave you the information you needed to travel over to Europe in the coming months. We're always here to help, and we appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and until next time, see ya.